Good evening. Welcome to On the Spot. Our first subject we'll talk about with my political analyst, Stephen Thompson. We have Mary Alice in the middle here. Our first subject, culture wars.
Well, culture wars. We are continuing the On the Spot feature about culture wars. And it just so happens that we have, it seems like it's a circus. Everybody knows Rush Limbaugh, as he happens to be the #1 talk radio host in the country. And last week, he did something very interesting. He decided that he was going to address a young woman, a law student that is going to Georgetown Law, and he called her a slut. And then...
Prostitute also, right?
Yeah. But he doubled down on the next day, and he said for the idea that he feels that we're paying for her contraception, that she should basically put up her sex tapes that we can watch. Everybody thought, what was he thinking? Now, we know that Mary Alice has nothing to say about this, but we're going to jump in and go, what do you think? What's going on?
We had to get Mary in here for this.
We had our best focused journalist and commentator. Mary, what's going on in the country?
Rush Limbaugh has gone over the top this time. He even tried to justify asking for a sex tape by saying, well, black rappers do it. Black rappers disrespect women all the time. And yes, they do. But what Rush forgot is that white women in this country are the holy grail.
Yes, right.
Mom and apple pie.
Right.
And when
Chevrolet.
you attack white women in this country who you want them to have your babies, there's a whole undercurrent in this country where the changing of demographics will definitely occur within the next 40 years in this country. And the bottom line is that there are white conservatives that are concerned about the dwindling population of white people in this country who are going to have white babies except white women with white men if you want to have white babies. So
the classic browning of America.
The last thing you want to do is really attack the women that you want to have your babies.
Well, Mary,
that's what
I got a question for you. I don't feel the women is coming out enough on this issue with Rush for his 9 hours for 3 days. He ran it on about this woman, this issue. And I don't feel that the women have spoken out enough. There's the women's group, they're not there as like they should be.
No, the women have been speaking out all over the internet.
That's true.
Women,
the women veterans groups.
Women have definitely been speaking out about this.
So as
not only that, the media bosses recognize that 85% of consumer purchases in this country are made by women,
right.
Whether they're single women,
head of
households, the wife.
When are the women going to get to the street?
Well, I mean,
when are they going to get to the Rush's compound, as he liked to call it?
Well, I mean, you have to also take a perspective that because this man who clearly makes these statements that basically he possibly is on drugs or whatever, that he makes that you don't have to overly react, but make a proactive stance that we sit at a point where roughly 85 to 90% of his advertising was.
That's where I was about to go.
So that's where we're at. So in essence,
maybe 85 to 100 sponsors as a whole.
Right. So we're looking at, and we'll go to our B-roll to talk about that there are these logos of these major advertising who will now have said on paper that we do not want to be a part of Rush's show, as well as a number of conservative hosts, Sean Hannity, Michael Savage, pretty much the crew, the usual suspects.
Yes.
So this is key. So I guess what Mary was saying is like, where do we now have gotten to the point where this toxic vitriol that has always been, clearly it's at Obama, but now it seems to be at a point where they're just mad at everybody.
No, they're targeting women.
And they're targeting women.
Well,
let's be clear about this. We women are the only ones that have the babies. The bottom line is you should be nice to us. because we're the ones who have your babies.
This is the on-the-spot.
Stop getting angry at us because we do not value each and every sperm. If you had any kind of civilization in this country, then men would work more towards working with a woman to procreate instead of trying to denigrate us, make us feel badly about ourselves, make us feel like we have no value, and therefore you can sleep with any one of us, deposit your sperm in any one of us, impregnate any one of us, and then walk away, leaving us to either depend on our single woman salary or public services, public assistance, and then you watch that the public services for women and children are being cut. So in a rational way, what do you expect women to do?
But
just have your babies under a rock and just raise them under a bush, and then how do you feed them berries and twigs and thistles and stuff?
And we're going to go to the core of where is this coming from?
It's a hatred of women.
It's a hatred of women
that really has been kept under
hatred or devalue.
It's basically hatred.
Right.
Let's be real. The hatred comes from males can control everything. Mm-hmm. Except gestation.
So that feeling.
So even though men beat their chest, oh, I'm strong, I'm the head of the household, I have bombs, I have machinery, I have military hardware and soldiers, and I can kill another person, and I can rob them, and I can bomb another country. One thing men cannot do is gestate. So you would think that if you can't gestate, you would actually work with the people who can gestate. That game of trying to keep the female livestock, barefoot and pregnant, that's not working anymore.
Well, let me throw something to Steve.
Okay.
Contraceptive.
Well,
we're going to get that to Mary also.
Well, it's in the foundation of what's going on, because it grew out of an idea that the Republicans now say that this is going to be on the burner again. Because it used to be in the back burner. We have to remind the audience, first of all, abortion is legal. Okay? So the idea of contraception and being covered by, in this case, insurance, is something that is a very powerful thing, meaning that this is just a general insurance service. That if a male wanted to go get a vasectomy, there was no big question. It's not a big question.
There's no question when men want to go get their Viagra. If you're going to talk about it's God's will,
right,
then if God's will says that you don't get an erection anymore once you hit a certain age, or if you don't get an erection because you have certain medical problems, then that's God's will. Why are you asking for Viagra? And not only that,
right,
why is Viagra covered under health insurance,
right?
And women have to fight for the birth control. And one thing I want to point out that Rush
didn't Rush get caught with Viagra?
Oh, he has things.
But
we're gonna. I think we need to come back to that. Just really start about. Let's explain why conception, or at least the contraception issue, is such a big issue. Why
it is a big issue because it's not just for birth control; it's also for medical issues within a woman's body. Part of the ignorance in this country is that the average person does not know how the woman's body works. So Rush was like, well, how much sex was Miss Fluke having that she needed so much birth control? Birth control pills are not like Viagra that you pop one when you're getting ready to have sex, Rush. Try to take a biology class. It will help you.
And Mary, we're going to have to close this segment out. The producers is calling, sending a signal. We'll be right back after a brief message.
A Georgetown University co-ed told Representative Nancy Pelosi's hearing that the women in her law school program are having so much sex they are going broke buying birth control pills. Speaking at a hearing held by Pelosi to tout Obama's mandate that virtually every health insurance plan cover the full cost of contraception and abortion-inducing products, Georgetown law student Sandra Fluke said that it's too expensive to have sex in law school without mandated insurance coverage. Apparently, 4 out of every 10 co-eds are having so much sex that it's hard to make ends meet if they have to pay for their own contraception, said Sandra Fluke's research. Can you imagine if you're her parents, how proud of Sandra Fluke you would be? Your daughter goes up to a congressional hearing conducted by the Botox-filled Nancy Pelosi and testifies she's having so much sex she can't afford her own birth control pills, and she agrees that Obama should provide them, or the Pope.
We're back. Next subject, the Republican strategy.
Well, as an extension of the last session, we talked about the idea of contraception. So it falls into a larger strategy. The Republicans have an idea, what we said, put it back on the burner. And it ideally looks at 2 or 3 things around the country. Invasive strategies in reference to women's bodies. The idea of passing legislation of personhood. So analysis-wise, what does our community need to know about that, Alice, in the sense of either one or really basically some stuff they don't even know about?
What the community needs to know is that for the past couple of years, when the attack was focused on black women's bodies and black women's reproduction, that it wasn't just black women. The whole point was black women were being used by Republicans across this country, or better yet to say conservatives across this country, to denounce abortion, right, and to denounce birth control, and to try to control our reproduction, which doesn't make sense, because on a biological level, any doctor will tell you that even when we do want to have children, children should be spaced for the health of the mother's body. Right. Men don't know that when a woman gestates, the baby takes everything. It doesn't matter how many vitamins we take, prenatal vitamins. It doesn't matter how much spinach we eat, and salmon, and all the vitamin C foods and all of that. The baby will take whatever it needs. There are women who have had their bones and their teeth depleted when they were pregnant and gave birth. What I'm trying to say is that gestating and giving birth is not a joke.
Right.
It's not. So men, if you think that the same effort that you put into creating another human being, that little 30 seconds of ejaculation, if you think that's the effort that women and our bodies put into gestating and bringing forth a baby, it's not.
So my question becomes, why would the Republicans target women as a strategy for what?
It does seem odd. It does seem that to women, it does seem like these conservative Republicans are targeting the angry white male vote.
Because even at the congressional hearing, they had the nerve in the Republican side, and Nancy Pelosi pointed out that you had 4 or 5 all men to come up and speak about this issue. Now, are they tone deaf? You had men come speak about women's issue.
And they were trying to say it's about their religious conscience. That's a bunch of crapola. Because when certain religious groups wanted to practice their polygamy,
right,
the federal government said no. When the Brigham Young University, when the Mormons wanted to continue to not allow black men to become priests within the Mormon church, and actually sanctioned this, and they were getting federal dollars, the IRS, the Justice Department, and the Supreme Court of the United States shut it down and said, no, you can't do this. So the Catholics and these evangelicals, and sometimes the Orthodox Jewish groups, actually want to continue to discriminate against women under color of your religion. No, it doesn't work like that. Within your religion, within your church and your temple and your mosque, you can do whatever you want to do. You have free speech to say whatever.
Not collecting federal dollars.
But you do not have the right to impose your scriptures on everybody else, because some of us don't believe.
Well, that's
some
the
of us
issue
don't
of-
practice your religion.
Well, I think that's the issue that a lot of people try to point out in this national debate, that fundamentally it's a separation of church and state, or at least a faith base against church and state. That's the establishment of the United States.
Well, guess what? If you want to have your free speech and you want to have your separation of church and state, why don't you try paying your taxes?
Well, interesting.
Because religions all across this country get free fire and police protection. You get sewage, you get running water inside your churches, and you don't pay a dime in taxes. Since you have so much lip about free speech, pay for it, contribute to the society by paying taxes. But you all don't want to do that.
Well, it's obviously a big thing. So we try to bring out the key issues that reference in this particular the idea in the Republican strategy, trying to make this the burner subject. This is key. So in that respect, they want to shift the conversation, because for many years it's considered was a dead issue. Really, women.
But wait, they're trying to shift the conversation because the unemployment rate in this country has been decreasing for the past few months
8.3
without the House Republican support.
Right.
They actually voted down Obama's America's Jobs Act.
Right.
Even when they broke it into pieces, they actually voted it down. And in spite of that, Obama's policies have been helping to improve the economy.
So it's kicking back in, and they don't know.
They can't admit that the economy is improving month after month after month. More people are getting jobs. This last month, there was more than 200,000 people who got jobs.
Was it 277?
Yeah.
277,000.
So the Republicans don't want to talk about the economy, because if they do, they would have to admit that Obama's policies are working with or without their help. Basically, it's without. So this is basically a red herring, but they made a mistake because you're attacking your women. And there's an old saying, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
But is this a distraction?
It's you know what, there are Republicans, actually in the New York Times this week, and there was a Republican strategist that said in a few months this birth control issue will blow over. Wrong. Because every month we women have our menstrual cycles. Every month we worry about our menstrual cycle being late. Why is it late? Is it because we're stressed? Is it because we might be pregnant? Do we want to be pregnant? How do we get pregnant? This is an issue we women deal with every month.
Mary,
it's not going to go away.
But Mary, this is a strategy because they can't talk about, you can't talk about foreign policy.
Because Obama was successful with that.
We can't talk about Iraq and Afghanistan, even though we had a little trouble today in Afghanistan with a rogue soldier going wild, killing up civilians. But overall, you can't talk about foreign policy.
You cannot say that Democrats are weak on foreign policy because Obama has proved that wrong.
You can't talk about the economy because it's starting to get better.
Right.
So sometimes you have to get us confused.
So what do you do? So Republicans actually bully the weakest among us, the women and the girls? Is that a winning strategy? Seriously?
But
wait, you don't know. The key thing. When you push women, just be careful. You might push us too far. It's not just our money that the advertisers are concerned about.
But they've been pushing the women.
It's not
it started with the unions also.
Right.
When they started with the teachers union, which is predominantly women.
Exactly, that's what I said.
And
they thought they could attack the teachers union because
they're going in this direction because they have no place else to go. They're just buying time.
Well, they could buy time until September and November, and then they don't have to worry anymore because a whole bunch of women, not just Democrats and liberals and progressives, but independent women and Republican women are saying there's something wrong with these guys.
So are you telling me this year won't blow over?
It's not going to blow over because, it might blow over for men because after your erection is over with, then you forget about it until you get another one.
Mary made that very clear.
But with women, every month we have to handle our reproductive systems. And that's 100% participation among us women and girls,
and they'll remember that.
And because we all have to use our menstrual products every month. If we did not, there would be blood and clots all over the place from all of us. You men actually think menstruation is a sanitary process because we women, 100% of us, keep clean. We don't impose our bodily functions on society or the rest of you. So for some reason you men act like it's no big deal. No, it's a major deal. It's just that we women are responsible, and we teach our daughters to be responsible for our menses. Our menses is part of the process where we could or could not get pregnant. The last thing I want to say is that birth control pills are not just for preventing pregnancy. Because of the changes in the during our cycles and our hormonal changes, there are some things that happen to our bodies. For instance, endometriosis, where cells will grow outside our uterus. There are a lot of problems where even if we're not worried about contraception or getting pregnant, birth control pills help our bodies. So when you're talking about taking away birth control pills, you're talking about interfering with something that can help our health be better, and we're not going for it.
And it's an overall health issue.
We have to close it out, Steve.
So we'll close it out.
We'll close it out.
But we got a lot of good information.
We'll be right.
And all of this is the Republicans' fault. Susan Fluke, one of the butt sisters, being dragged out of law school by the hair. Wait till Rick Santorum hears about this. Wait till Gingrich hears about this. What do you think they'll do? They'll put a stop to this right away. They'll head over to that university. They'll stop it. They'll spy on Susan Fluke and interrupt her in mid-coitus. And then they'll make them get married. Make them get married and make them have those babies and make them have 10,000 babies and then stay home listening to the Troglodytes by the Jimmy Castor Bunch. What does it say about the college co-ed Susan Fluke, who goes before a congressional committee and essentially says that she must be paid to have sex? What does that make her? It makes her a slut, right? Makes her a prostitute.
We're back on the spot. Stephen Thompson, Mary Alice. Next subject, redistricting.
Yes, we have a situation in New York State that comes out of the nature of the United States Census. What happens is the census, because of those numbers, represents the idea that your population, whether it get larger or smaller, lose congressional seats. And in this, New York State is in the dimension of redistricting. So
senatorial seats also?
Of course.
Yes.
So the whole nature of your political representation. Mary has some issues about what exactly has been going on in New York State, because New York State's a hotbed.
Yeah, New York State is one of the last, if not the last, state in the union to deal with our redistricting. Everybody else's has been basically completed.
Right.
In New York State, we knew we were going to lose 2 congressional seats based on overall New York State population. The population, however, has decreased more upstate and increased more downstate. Even though there have been losses in people of color in downstate New York, it still was not enough to
maintain
offset.
Yeah, so the bottom line is we're losing 2 congressional seats. So the compromise apparently is that one will be lost upstate and one will be lost downstate. Apparently the one lost downstate is the one that former congressional representative Weiner held,
right,
that is being currently held by conservative Republican Turner. There are some other issues. The Center for Law and Social Justice and some other individuals actually, way back in the last summer, they saw that the process of redistricting was being stalled in the Senate, Republican Senate. So a lawsuit was filed, and it's a good thing they did, because as it stands now, the issue of the congressional lines not being drawn has become a major issue, because in order for New York State to comply with federal law, our congressional primary has been pushed up from September to June.
26?
June 26 is
2012.
New York State's congressional primary, June 26th. That is so that the ballots can be mailed out in time for people overseas, the military, to get their ballots and then send them back in compliance with federal law. So if we're going to have our congressional primary at the end of June, that pushes up the petitioning season. So technically, anytime around March 20th, the congressional line should be finalized, and then right after that the petitions will be going out so that they will be back in time for the June primary, not September primary, June primary. There are some issues with our local congressional districts. The 10th congressional district is now going to be called 8. Right. The 11th congressional district is going to be called 9. Part of the problem was that Howard Beach was added to the 8th congressional district, right, which is really the 10th.
Right. Town district. So
yes, and Howard Beach has nothing in common with what we know of as the current 10th congressional district. That was done so that Fort Greene and Clinton Hill would be split.
Right.
So that one would be in what we know formally as the 10th congressional district, and the other would be in the formerly 11th congressional district. Which one of the problems is that the Fort Greene and Clinton Hill are so closely aligned as far as how they live, the infrastructure,
right, demographics,
the demographics,
right,
housing. To split them after they've been together for 30 years is not good, and a lot of people are talking about that. Not only that, the 10th and the 11th were Voting Rights Act districts. Okay, but so if you're going to add Howard Beach in one instance, or Coney Island in the other,
right,
Howard Beach and Coney Island have never been parts of voting rights districts.
Oh, so wait, hold on, Mary. Can you tell us 11th district is Yvette Clarke's district?
Yes.
All right. Please let the people know so we can know who's who and what we're talking
about.
The
former
and the 10th is towns, right?
And the former 10th congressional district, which is now going to be the 8th, and the former 11th congressional district, which is Clark's district, which is now going to be 9. You have to remember the numbers of your congressional districts are going to change. The bottom line is that as of Monday, if the Senate, New York State Senate and the Assembly has not decided that they are going to draw some fair, lucid, sober congressional lines, then it's going to be up to a 3 judge panel, federal judge panel, to decide whether some lines that United States Magistrate Judge Roanne Mann actually drew last week, if those are going to stand, or if Judge Mann is going to tweak those lines based on commentary from Esmeralda Simmons from the Center for Law and Social Justice. Assemblyman Hakeem Jeffries weighed in because he was drawn out of his district, which I kind of suspected that was going to happen.
He's drawn out of his Assembly district or Congress?
Because he's drawn out of the 10th Congressional District.
Right. And he will now be in the 9th Congressional District.
If those lines stand.
If those lines stand.
Right.
He will be in the,
So he would then be running against Yvette Clarke.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Right. So in that note, we're going to continue this because we need to match this, because this really next week we're going to see some movement on it.
Exactly,
and
because during this week the federal judges have to decide what's going on if the state Senate does not make any movement.
Okay. This is a potential mess. We'll be back next week to discuss it.